What's up YouTube, Magnolia Mo here and welcome back to my channel. I have a special guest here today, Mr. Ken White. We're gonna both do a joint review of the Fosiaudio BT20A Pro. And Ken, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Ken White. I'm a drummer, musician, doing a lot of music production, mixing, mastering, that sort of thing. And a lot of my music listening preferences are geared toward analog, vinyl. I've been getting into really collecting vinyl recently, but it's been great to be introduced to more of the hi-fi digital world here.
Yes. So what kind of music do you actually produce nowadays?
I mean, mostly like around electronica, kind of experimental. I travel around the world, so I really try to connect with different musical traditions and incorporate that into my own compositional style.
That's nice. All right, so let's get on with our review. Thanks for joining me, Ken. In case you missed it, I recently did an unboxing video of the Fosiaudio BT20A Pro. I'm gonna leave a card for that video down in the description. If you're interested, you can check that out. Behind me you have the Martin Logan Montage, the Pioneer Elite. We listened to analog and digital versions of the same tracks that I have here. Not all, but most of them. And then we compared the music that was playing on the system behind me, driven by the EVGA DAC that I have in my PC, compared that to the Fosiaudio BT20A Pro. Alright, so the first track that we listened to was Bury a Friend by Billie Eilish. I like that track because of the drums and the various layers in that track, right? And we first listened to the analog version, and then we listened to the same track via the EVGA DAC, played on the Pioneer Elite and the Martin Logan Montage, and then we switched to the Fosiaudio and our B&W's, Bowers & Wilkins 686s, I'm sorry, S2 versions, right? The warmest sound that we got was on the analog, right? Bass was well-rounded. The highs were present when they needed to be. And then when we switched to the digital versions, the bass was a little bit more impactful. With the highs, you know, pretty much about the same. You know, that's just my assessment, right? So what did you think?
Yeah, I think what I love about analog generally is that there is still a wide stereo field, but it feels there's a cohesiveness, and so I still got a lot of that from this particular digital version. There wasn't as much of, to be honest, a difference as I was expecting. Partly because, mainly I'm sure that Phineas, the production, is made digitally. So we're not talking about
night and day difference between the two.
So it started digital, stayed digital, and then so you still have that same consistency.
So then when we switched to the Fosiaudio, what was the biggest change that you heard? And did you which sound did you prefer? The analog, the Pioneer Elite, or the Fosiaudio, which is more near field, right? I think, you know, I tend to enjoy that better because I'm right here. But what's your thought?
Well, I think there's different things I enjoyed about all of it. So if I'm listening I just want to immerse myself in the sound, then I'm going to go with more of the analog, the sort of the bigger field. But when I'm listening for detail, I think this Fosiaudio really gave me a lot of more depth in from front to back that I didn't get
over there.
Whereas like that, especially in the mid range, the vocals really came forward. And I noticed an interesting separation, which I don't usually notice, between the vocals coming forward and the bass being very clear, yet sitting behind. But I didn't lose any of it. In fact, I noticed some of the higher synth lines, synth bass parts that I did not notice before. So that was really exciting.
So the synth noise, did you hear it? You didn't hear it in the record or in you know, on the analog, and not even on the Martin Logan's?
Like there was in one specific part, there was a particular bass synth, and granted, again, those frequencies are going to be in the more the mid-range. So that's probably better handled in these speakers. Those came forward along with the vocals. So probably that's why I was able to hear that part a little bit clearer.
Right, and then the sheer power of the Fosi, right? I mean, that comes through too, because the bass, to me, the bass is impactful. The voice, the vocals, are more present, right? They're not like laid back in a way, right? With the Fosi, so
didn't have the bass didn't have the width or like the oomph because they're smaller speakers and we're closer to it.
Correct.
So,
Near field, yeah.
But it was still it's still impactful.
And
it's
present,
still clear, present, and which was nice.
All right, so let's go to the next track then. The next track was Everything in Its Right Place by Radiohead, right? We listen to this all the time, Ken and I, and we revel in, the production of this particular track. What did you think?
My preference is going to be the vinyl on this one because of the reasons why we go for vinyl is that warm, immersive sound, and I want to hear that first Prophet synth sound, Prophet 5. I want to be enveloped in that sound.
This one?
Yeah. Yeah. So the digital version back here, it was a bit more thinner than I'm used to. But it still was like across the spectrum. We had the deeper field, so that was fine. When we switched to this, the Fosiaudio, I think it may be a function of the near fieldness as well. I can't take that out of the equation, but that depth where the mid range comes forward more, I did not like it for this track.
Oh, okay.
Because what I love about a Radiohead production, especially Kid A, is that everything is very well integrated. All the sounds from the full frequency spectrum. It's warm and beautiful, and those vocals, which for my ears are meant to be more of a texture that's mixed in with that Prophet sound. There's so many different textures and layers, and this does not feel like a vocal forward song.
The vocals did stand out, especially on the. I was sitting on this side. On the right side, they did kind of pop more.
Yeah.
It could be a Class D amp specific situation here, right? Because Class D amps are not as refined for the highs. Maybe like they will they'll be a little more harsher, right?
Okay.
In overall, they'll sound earthy, so you'll get your bass and everything, but they're more rugged in my opinion, right? But I think you hit it right on the head. This was more rugged, maybe? Is that the right term? But it's still fun to listen to.
It was still great. Yeah, I mean, I still love the song. It's the clarity I love. There's still clarity is still there, but I think the fact that the vocals were were still more forward and separated. I didn't like for this track, and I think this comparison is interesting because it shows, like, I loved it for the last track, didn't want it for this track.
What about the channel separation? Too separated? It wasn't as...
No, I think that was
together?
okay.
Okay.
That was because that is something I also love about this track too. Is there's all these things panning from left to right. There's really great vocal effects, little ear candy going back and forth. And I like that, so that gets accentuated with these.
All right, and the power, I think the amp itself has quite a bit of power to drive these speakers and even the Martin Logans behind me. We're only at like a quarter of the, on the dial. We haven't even gone past the quarter mark here, and it's pretty loud, right, on these speakers. So it's not as well refined on that particular track. So that's our assessment, right? We were born before the wind. All right, and the next track we listen to is one of my favorite tracks, right? It's Into the Mystic by Van Morrison on the Moondance album. It's a 2013 remastered album on Tidal, and it's in MQA, 192 kilohertz, 24 bits. So this particular track, again, we only listen to the digital version. I don't have the analog version of this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Where the Fosiaudio really stood out was there were particular instruments that I felt were more forward. And again, I think this is a function of that mid-range being coming forward. Yeah. There's some side guitar lines that came more forward. And there's an interesting moment. He mentions the foghorns in the song, and it's a recreation of I believe it sounds like lower horns, a baritone sax or something, and that came more forward with the Fosi than it did.
But was it still in the back? But more forward, so it was forward.
It was more a little bit more forward than here.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be the foghorn, so the sax, right? The baritone sax, supposed to be in the back, almost recessed, right? Because we are near field, it's not the stage is not as deep as it is over there. So yeah, they were forward. The vocals are forward. I didn't think the highs took a back seat to the Martin Logans and the Pioneer combination. Maybe it was, again, it wasn't as refined as that receiver and the tower combination, but still, right, for something this small, and costing less than $100, I think that's the sound is pretty good. It's very good, actually.
It had great definition. Yes. If you're looking for like separation of the instruments, being able to pick out the different parts, I mean, this is a great option. It sounds really great.
All right. So then we decided to compare the Fosiaudio to the Arylic B50 Bluetooth amplifier, right, that I've had and I've done the review and unboxing for. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I remember we did a listen earlier the other day, and it seemed like hands down the Fosiaudio was the one, right?
Yep. More power, more bass, more vocals were more present. It was just a lot more fun to listen to.
And I loved the clarity from the Fosiaudio, and it's in the bass particularly, and it was just kind of getting smeared, I felt like, but without the Arylic, without the power.
Right. But something happened. Something happened. I actually. So this is the advantage, right? So the Fosiaudio is just a straight stereo amplifier, right? With Bluetooth capability, where you can Bluetooth the sound into it. The Arylic is a lot more, right? It has it has an optical input. It has a phono stage built in. It is also it's got the Bluetooth for headphones, right? The aptX has a USB DAC, and it has ARC, HDMI, right? In addition to all of that, it is also controlled via an app. So in the app, and I noticed that the crossover was defaulted to 100 hertz for some reason, right? And all this time I've been listening to it with that 100 hertz crossover when I don't have a sub hooked up to the Arylic, right? And that was causing the sound to be flat and just sound like the bass was sounding anemic when we were doing the comparison earlier. But when I flipped that switch, took that 100 hertz crossover out, it was a completely different ball game. The sound just changed so much, right? From a bass impact, from the overall integration, right? In the vocals also felt heavier, not heavier, but more full, right? So what did you hear like when we flipped the switch?
Well, I mean, immediately it was an immediate game changer, and all the warmth got brought back to that, just brought the whole track back into life. And I realized that mid-range to lower frequency separation that I was getting from the Fosiaudio, I actually didn't like it in the end, because I had that direct comparison where the Arylic was more cohesive across the whole frequency spectrum, and especially in Everything in its Right Place, which I love that track. I love the warmth in the low end.
Right.
And I got that as soon as we flipped that switch from that track.
The Fosiaudio, as I mentioned, you know, it's a straight desktop amplifier, right? It's small. You can kind of put it in, you know, anywhere. Like you can use it in your computer setup. You can put it, you know, in the garage, or you can have it, you know, hooked up to outdoor speakers. You know, it's small enough you can bring it in an office, right? The Arylic B50 is a lot more, and the best part about it is that app, right, where you can actually apply custom EQ, or you can use flat or jazz or whatever's to your liking. You can adjust the crossover, right? That's the other piece with the Fosiaudio. It does have a 3 millimeter analog pre-out, right, which we can connect to a subwoofer, and you can get more bass, right, if that's what you you know, want to do. So you can expand it, and so does the Arylic. That's why it has that default 100 hertz crossover that was messing up the sound, right? But once we got rid of that, I also prefer the Arylic sound, but you know, from a overall application standpoint purposes, right, if you are looking for a small desktop amplifier, you know, that you can put in your office, in your garage, right, and just hook up a couple of speakers and Bluetooth the sound to it, the Fosiaudio is a great, you know, amplifier to have. You're not going to be sitting there doing this comparison that we just did, right? But we did that as you know, as to assess it, right, for its true sound quality, right? How is the sound? I mean, it's still good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I will point out, like, I think still the Fosiaudio, the clarity in the bass, even though it was a bit recessed, was still stronger than the Arylic. We did do a little bit of one of the EQ presets, and that brought out some of the things that I was missing
from on the app, for
which
the
you have
Arylic,
the option of with the Arylic.
right.
So again, the features.
So would you recommend the Fosiaudio?
I would.
BT20,
I would. If you're looking for like really clarity, and you want, depends on what kind of music you're listening to. If you're listening to like very vocal heavy, vocal forward music, it's going to give you that clarity. If you like more sort of wall as a sound sort of thing, it may not give you that. It gives you a little bit more separation. But I mean, that being said, it's still great.
Yeah. So there you have it, right? I recommend it as well, 100%. I mean, they're both gonna stay here in my system, the Fosiaudio and the Arylic. I'm gonna switch between the two of them. Would you like to come back to the channel again?
Absolutely.
All right.
Anytime you have me.
All right.
It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. I'll see you guys on the next one. And in the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.